let's unravel the story. One day, a company called Genesis based in San Francisco created a virus known as ALZ-113, intended to be a cure for Alzheimer's disease. This virus was tested on apes, and those injected began to show extraordinary levels of intelligence. Eventually, the apes escaped, leading to a dramatic incident on the Golden Gate Bridge. They crossed the bridge and vanished into the forest. However, the virus had a terrifying side effect. It triggered a deadly illness in humans called the simian flu. This disease spread rapidly and lethally. In no time, the virus engulfed the entire globe, wiping out almost everyone it touched. Human civilization collapsed completely. Those who were immune didn't necessarily survive either. Many were killed amidst the chaos and violence. Humanity slowly began to vanish from the earth. 10 years later, deep in the forest, an ape named Caesar led a group of apes on a hunt for deer. He ordered his right-hand ape, Koba, and the others to advance. Without hesitation, the apes obeyed, leaping from tree to tree in pursuit of their prey. Caesar managed to take down a deer. He brought his son, Blue Eyes, along to teach him the ways of the hunt. Caesar warned him to be careful, but Blue Eyes ignored the advice. As Blue Eyes approached the fallen deer, a bear suddenly attacked. Caesar rushed in to protect his son, and just as the bear was about to strike again, Koba appeared from behind and drove a spear into the beast, killing it. The apes returned to their settlement, carrying their catch. Caesar now led a colony of intelligent apes who had built a village atop a cliff in the middle of the forest. Upon returning, Caesar was summoned to see his mate, Cornelia. She had just given birth to a baby boy. Blue Eyes was thrilled to meet his new sibling. Outside, Maurice congratulated Caesar on the birth of his second child. It had been 10 years since they first settled in that place. Caesar expressed his curiosity about what had become of the humans, especially Will, the man who once raised him. Still, Caesar disapproved of the violent nature of humans, how easily they could kill each other. Though apes also fought, Caesar had forbidden them from killing one another. Maurice mentioned that it had been 2 years since he'd seen any sign of humans. He believed it was possible that humanity had gone extinct. One day, Blue Eyes and his friend Ash were on their way home after fishing when they accidentally encountered a human named Carver. Startled and terrified, Carver pulled out a gun and accidentally shot Ash. Caesar, hearing the gunshot from afar, rushed to the scene. Meanwhile, Carver screamed for help. His companions, Malcolm, Ellie, and others, ran to him. Suddenly, Caesar and a group of apes arrived and surrounded them. Panic set in. The humans raised their weapons in fear. Rocket, the father of Ash who had been shot, stepped forward with a spear, making things even tenser. Caesar ordered the apes to stand down. Rocket resisted. His son had been hurt, but Caesar insisted he remain calm. Malcolm began to notice something strange about these apes. He tried to explain that they meant no harm and urged his group to lower their weapons. Then, to everyone's shock, Caesar spoke, commanding the humans to leave. The humans were stunned. The apes could talk. As they began to retreat, Malcolm's son, Alex, accidentally dropped his bag and didn't have time to pick it up. Caesar instructed Koba to follow the humans. After returning from the forest, Malcolm reported to Dreyfus at the quarantine outpost. Dreyfus was the leader of the surviving human community, people who had immunity to the simian flu. It turned out that Malcolm and his team had ventured into the forest to reactivate a hydroelectric dam to restore power to the city. Carver then told them about their encounter with the talking apes. Of course, Dreyfus didn't believe it at first, but Malcolm confirmed everything. Everyone there had witnessed it. Dreyfus ordered them to keep it secret. He didn't want to cause widespread panic. Deep in the forest, after secretly spying on the humans, Koba urged Caesar to lead a preemptive strike, attack the humans before they attacked them. But Maurice opposed the idea. They didn't know the humans' true strength. They didn't even know why the humans had entered the forest in the first place. Koba then tried to provoke Rocket, reminding him that the humans had shot his son. But Rocket remained calm, saying he would follow Caesar's orders. Besides, his son had only suffered a minor wound to the arm. A heated argument broke out among the apes. Caesar stepped in and reminded them, if they went to war with the humans, the cost would be devastating. They could lose their home, their families, and the future they had built. Koba eventually backed down, saying he would obey Caesar. But he insisted that the apes needed to show the humans their strength. Caesar agreed with that part. The next day, Caesar led an army of apes toward the human settlement. Panic swept through the city as the sight of the advancing apes sent people into a frenzy. The gates were opened, and Malcolm stepped forward to meet Caesar. Caesar declared that the apes did not want war, but they would fight if they had to. The apes then returned Alex's bag. Caesar warned the humans never to enter the forest again. Then, with commanding presence, he and his army turned and left. After the confrontation, the human settlement was in chaos. Dreyfus tried to calm everyone down. If the apes returned to attack, he said, they still had access to a large cache of old military weapons. But for now, Dreyfus would focus on restarting the hydroelectric dam. Fuel was running out, and power was their only hope. With electricity, they could reconnect with any remaining survivors in the outside world. Still, Dreyfus revealed his plan. He would lead an armed force to seize the dam from the apes if necessary. After the speech, Malcolm confronted Dreyfus. He was completely against launching an attack. Instead, Malcolm asked for 3 days to go into the forest and attempt a peaceful negotiation with the apes. If that failed, then, and only then, should they resort to violence. Dreyfus agreed. But while Malcolm was gone, Dreyfus would prepare the weapons in the armory. If Malcolm didn't return within 3 days, he would lead a full assault to wipe the apes out. Malcolm told his partner, Ellie, that they were heading back into the forest. For this mission, he had no choice but to bring Carver again. He was a water systems engineer, and the only one who understood the dam. Ellie, still anxious, asked what they'd do if the apes confronted them again. Malcolm answered that he'd try to negotiate. He had to. He couldn't let a war begin. Ellie insisted on joining. As a doctor, he could help if anyone got hurt. Surprisingly, Alex also wanted to come. He wanted to help his father. Soon, Malcolm and his team entered the forest. Malcolm decided to approach the ape village alone. He told the others that if he didn't return in 2 hours, they were to go back to the city immediately. Malcolm then ventured deep into the woods, eventually arriving at the ape settlement. Several apes appeared and seized him. Malcolm raised both hands to show he meant no harm. Caesar arrived, furious and ready to kill Malcolm. But Malcolm pleaded for a chance to explain. He begged Caesar to come with him, to the dam. If Caesar saw it for himself, he would understand. Koba, already holding his spear, looked ready to strike. But to everyone's surprise, Caesar agreed to go. They made their way to the dam. Along the way, Malcolm explained that the people in the city were running out of energy. They had no power left to keep the lights on. Their only hope was the hydroelectric dam. Malcolm pleaded with Caesar to allow his team to repair it. He swore that they were not a threat. Seeing Malcolm's desperation, Caesar agreed. Malcolm returned to his team waiting in the car, followed closely by several apes. He told them that the apes had agreed to let them fix the dam, on one condition: they had to surrender all their weapons. With no other option, the group handed over their guns. Rocket then smashed them to pieces. Witnessing this, Koba clearly disagreed with Caesar's decision. He argued that if the humans regained electricity, they would become even more dangerous. But Caesar replied that he saw only desperation in the humans. If the apes chased Malcolm away, Caesar was certain that the humans would come back with an army and start a war. Still, Koba wasn't satisfied. His hatred for humans ran deep. He revealed the scars on his body, the result of being tortured as a lab experiment by humans. But when Koba's tone turned defiant, Caesar became furious. Koba backed down and apologized. Elsewhere, Carver remained convinced that the apes would eventually kill them all. He harbored deep hatred toward them, blaming them for the simian flu that had wiped out half the human population and taken countless loved ones. But Ellie disagreed. She argued that the apes weren't to blame. The virus was created by human scientists in a lab. Carver didn't care. His hatred remained unchanged. The next day, Caesar and the other apes escorted Malcolm and his team to the dam. But Koba was nowhere to be seen. Secretly, he and 2 fellow apes had gone to the city to investigate. From a distance, Koba saw Dreyfus and his men inspecting weapons. He snuck into the armory and found a cache of military-grade firearms being prepared. A human spotted Koba. As the man aimed his gun, Koba quickly acted like a mindless ape. The man hesitated, then lowered his weapon and shot Koba away. Koba and his companions returned to the forest. Back at the dam, Malcolm and Carver planned to blow up a blocked waterway. The explosion worked, but it also caused debris to collapse and block the path. Carver was trapped beneath the rubble. Caesar and the other apes rushed in to help rescue him. Once Carver was freed, Malcolm sincerely thanked Caesar for saving his friend. Just then, Caesar's youngest child toddled over to Ellie, who was tending to Carver's injuries. The baby ape curiously approached Carver's toolbox. Carver panicked and shoved the ape away. Blue Eyes stepped in immediately to protect his little brother. Carver then reached into the toolbox and pulled out a hidden gun. Caesar acted swiftly, grabbing the weapon from Carver. Outraged, Malcolm begged Caesar not to kill him. Caesar was furious, there was still a gun among them. Without hesitation, he hurled it into the river. Malcolm tried to explain that he had no idea Carver still had a weapon. Caesar didn't care. He ordered Malcolm and his team to leave the forest. When Caesar returned to the ape village, he found Cornelia lying weak and unresponsive. Her condition had worsened since giving birth. Meanwhile, Malcolm made a bold decision. He would go back and speak to Caesar one last time. He needed Caesar to give him another chance. Ellie joined him. Arriving at the ape settlement, Malcolm pleaded with Caesar once again. He promised to banish Carver. Then Ellie saw Cornelia's condition and offered to help. She was a doctor, and she could treat her. But Caesar remained silent. Malcolm tried to reason with him, insisting that not all humans were like Carver. Eventually, Caesar relented and allowed Ellie to treat Cornelia. He then declared that he would give Malcolm and his team just one more day. Malcolm pleaded for more time, knowing a single day wouldn't be enough. But Caesar firmly refused. To help speed up the work, Caesar decided to send apes to assist the humans. Hearing this, Blue Eyes disagreed with his father's decision to help the humans. And once they returned from the ape village, Malcolm immediately locked Carver inside the car. The next day, Koba arrived at the dam to confront Caesar. He pushed Alex aside when the boy got in his way. Malcolm quickly stepped forward to protect his son. Koba shouted out Caesar's name. Caesar appeared, and Koba demanded to know why he was helping the humans who had attacked his own child. To Koba, Caesar was putting all the apes in danger. He accused Caesar of loving the humans more than his own kind, more than his own son. Enraged, Caesar attacked Koba. Being stronger, Caesar easily overpowered him. But instead of finishing him off, Caesar let him go. He looked Koba in the eye and said, "Apes do not kill apes." Koba, defeated, muttered an apology. Watching it all, Blue Eyes grew more and more disillusioned with his father, who seemed to be siding with the humans. Later, in secret, Koba ordered his companion not to tell Caesar about the human armory. He then approached Blue Eyes, telling him that Caesar no longer trusted him. Koba urged Blue Eyes to protect Caesar, because as long as humans were nearby, they were still in danger. The following day, Koba returned secretly to the weapons depot. The two humans guarding it thought he was just a harmless ape. But they were wrong. Koba seized a gun and killed them both. He returned to the forest, now armed and dangerous. That night, Malcolm and his team finally succeeded in reactivating the power plant. A gas station in the forest lit up as electricity flowed once again. Malcolm thanked Caesar for his help. Elsewhere, Carver, still locked inside the car, was ambushed and killed by Koba. Malcolm and his team were then invited back to the ape village. From a distance, they saw the city glowing with light. It meant their mission had succeeded. Caesar visited Cornelia, now fully recovered. But in the shadows, Koba was already moving. He ordered his followers to burn down the ape homes. Then he spotted Caesar above. Without hesitation, Koba raised his gun and shot Caesar. Caesar fell. Blue Eyes, in shock, saw the firearm lying on the ground. The other apes, enraged, saw their leader shot and chaos erupted. Behind them, flames roared higher. Blue Eyes picked up the gun that had been used to shoot his father. The apes, confused and furious, believed it was the humans who had done this. Maurice, sensing something was wrong, told Malcolm and his team to run. Koba appeared before the others and declared that the humans had killed Caesar and burned down their home. He ordered a group of apes to chase after Malcolm and his people. Then, he rallied the entire ape army to march on the human settlement. "We will avenge Caesar," he proclaimed. The females and children were told to hide deep in the forest. Outside, Malcolm, Ellie, and Alex barely escaped with their lives. Meanwhile, Koba led the apes in raiding the human armory. Dreyfus, learning of the breach, immediately sounded the alarm and ordered his men to prepare for battle. He knew the apes were coming to attack. Soon, the apes appeared on the road to the human compound. War broke out. Casualties fell on both sides. Blue Eyes watched in horror as apes died one after another. Dreyfus fired a bazooka, blowing up fuel drums. A tank rolled in, blasting the apes. Koba charged forward and took control of the tank, turning its firepower against the humans. Eventually, the apes broke through the settlement gates. The war had truly begun. In the forest, Ellie stumbled upon Caesar lying motionless. At first, they thought he was dead, but then, he moved. Caesar was still alive. They quickly brought him into the car. Malcolm assumed it was Carver who shot him, but Caesar revealed the truth. It was an ape, a traitor. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Malcolm rushed to get Caesar to safety. Back in the city, Koba commanded the apes to capture all the remaining humans. He then ordered Ice to kill a man standing before them. But Ice refused. He believed Caesar would never have wanted this. Enraged, Koba dragged Ice to the edge and threw him to his death. Caesar is dead. Koba roared. I am the leader now. And you will follow me. On the outskirts of the city, Caesar asked Malcolm to stop at a house. They took shelter inside. There, Alex found a photo of a man with a chimpanzee. It was from Caesar's past. This was Caesar's old home, the place where he had been raised by Will. Ellie told Malcolm she needed surgical supplies to save Caesar. Malcolm made the bold decision to go into the city alone to get them. They had to save Caesar at all costs. He was the only one who could end the war. Meanwhile, in the city, Koba imprisoned the captured humans in cages. He ordered his apes to hunt down anyone still hiding. Blue Eyes saw Maurice, Rocket, and other loyal followers of Caesar locked up inside a bus. Elsewhere, Malcolm managed to sneak into a building and gathered the medical tools Ellie needed. But as he tried to escape, he had to dodge roaming apes at every turn. Eventually, Malcolm came face to face with Blue Eyes. At first, Blue Eyes raised his weapon, but he didn't shoot. Realizing who the boy was, Malcolm told him the truth. Caesar was still alive. Malcolm returned to the hideout with Blue Eyes. When Blue Eyes saw his father gravely injured, he was furious, convinced humans were to blame. But Caesar looked at him and spoke the truth. It wasn't a human who shot him, it was Koba. Once everything was ready, Ellie began the operation to save Caesar. After the surgery, Blue Eyes apologized to Caesar for turning against him. But Caesar didn't blame his son. Instead, he blamed himself. He had trusted Koba too much. He had believed that apes were better than humans, but he was wrong. There was no difference. Apes could be just as cruel. Caesar then asked where Koba was. Blue Eyes explained that Koba was at the tower, surrounded by the other apes. If they knew Caesar was alive, they would surely follow him. But Caesar disagreed. He believed the apes would only follow whoever appeared strongest. And in his current state, he was too weak to lead. Blue Eyes then came up with a plan. He asked for permission to help his father. Quietly and swiftly, Blue Eyes freed Maurice and the other apes loyal to Caesar. He brought them to Caesar's hideout. He also shared news that the female apes and young ones were already on their way to the city. They had to move quickly to stop Koba. Hearing this, Caesar made up his mind. He would go to the city and confront Koba once and for all. Malcolm had an idea. He would lead them in through the underground subway tunnels. As Malcolm and the apes made their way through the underground subway tunnels, gunfire suddenly erupted. Malcolm quickly ordered Caesar and the others to climb up to safety. Once they were out, he crept toward the source of the gunfire, only to find Dreyfus and 2 of his men waiting below. Dreyfus revealed that he had planted explosives beneath the tower. His plan was to bring it down and kill every ape inside. But before he could act, Malcolm pulled a gun on him. He demanded Dreyfus hold off on the detonation, at least for now. Above, Caesar and his loyal apes had reached the top of the tower. Seeing Caesar alive, Koba stepped forward and declared himself the rightful leader. He had led the apes to victory in war, he claimed. He called Caesar weak. But Caesar replied with fire in his voice, saying Koba was the weaker one, because he needed a gun to win. Enraged, Koba threw his weapon aside and challenged Caesar to a bare-handed fight. They clashed violently, their bodies crashing and tumbling across the structure. Blue Eyes tried to intervene, but Caesar stopped him. This was between them. Koba grabbed a metal rod and swung at Caesar. The battle grew brutal. As fists and metal collided, Caesar blocked with a steel plate, holding on with all his strength. He asked Koba why betray him, after he had treated him like a brother. Koba coldly responded that he fought for the apes. But Caesar saw the truth, Koba fought only for himself. With a blow to Koba's gut, Caesar knocked him back. The two tumbled again, nearly falling, barely catching themselves on a ledge. Meanwhile, below, Dreyfus revealed something more. He had made contact with a surviving military base. Reinforcements were on their way to wipe out the apes. With grim resolve, Dreyfus activated the detonator. A powerful explosion tore through the base of the tower. Malcolm barely escaped as the blast sent shockwaves upward. The tower shook. Apes lost their footing, rubble crashed down. Caesar rushed to help those trapped beneath the debris. But Koba didn't care. He picked up a gun and began firing at Caesar. Blue Eyes hurled a piece of metal to distract him. As Koba turned to aim at Blue Eyes, Caesar lunged. The two apes rolled again in a final struggle. Caesar survived the fall, but Koba was left hanging from a ledge. Desperate, Koba cried out, "Ape not kill ape." Caesar looked around at the wounded, his people, harmed by Koba's madness. He stared down at Koba and said coldly, "You are not ape." Then he let go. Koba fell into the darkness. The apes gathered. Once more, they stood behind Caesar. Moments later, Malcolm appeared. He urged Caesar to flee. Soldiers were on their way, and if they didn't escape, war would erupt again. But Caesar shook his head. It was too late. The war had already begun, and the apes were the ones who started it. Humanity would not forgive. Caesar told Malcolm to leave, before it was too late. There was no turning back. Caesar and the apes would face this war to the end. Soon, the female apes and the young arrived. Caesar embraced his wife and son. Then, he turned to his people and gave the order. Prepare for war. And that's the end of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.